Welcome, Habibi angels. We're going to read Thousand Aladdin. Pick up where we left off. Let's forget our worries now. Let's see what Aladdin's worries are. It is moreover true that no world but you can be permitted to touch or lift up this stone and go into the region that lies beneath it. Even if I myself am not able to approach it and take possession of the treasure which is below it. And in order to ensure your success, you must observe and execute in every respect, even to the minutest point, the instructions I am giving you. This is a matter of the greatest consequence for both you and myself. Well, my dear uncle, he exclaimed as he got up, what must I do? Tell me. I'm ready to obey you in everything. Heartily the magician rejoiced and said, my dear boy, come to me. Take hold of this ring and lift up the stone. I'm not strong enough, uncle, said Aladdin. You must help me. No, answered the African magician. You have no occasion for my assistance. Neither of us will do any good if I attempt to help you. You must lift up the stone entirely by yourself. Only pronounce the name of your father and your grandfather. Take hold of the ring and lift it. It will come up without any difficulty. Aladdin did exactly as the magician told him. He raised the stone without any trouble and laid it aside. When the stone was taken away, a small excavation, 3 feet deep and 4 feet at the bottom, where there appeared a small door with steps down that go down lower yet. You must now, my good boy, said the African magician to Aladdin, observe exactly every direction that I give to you. Go down into this cavern, and when you have come to the bottom of the steps which you see before you, you will perceive an open door, which leads to a large vaulted space, divided into 3 successive halls. Each one of these you will see on both sides 4 bronze vases, as large as tubs, full of gold and silver. But you must take particular care not to touch any of this treasure. And when you get to the first hall, take up your robe and bind it close around you. Then be sure you go to the second without stopping, and from thence the third. Above everything, be very careful not to go near the walls or even to touch them with your robe, for if any part of your dress comes in contact with them, your instant death will be inevitable. This is the reason why I have desired you to fasten your robe firmly around you. And at the end of the third hall there is a door which leads to a garden planted with beautiful trees, all of which are laden with fruit. Go straight forward and pursue a path which you will perceive, and which will bring you to a terrace. When you have ascended to the terrace, you will observe a niche before you, in which there is a lighted lamp. Take the lamp and extinguish it, then throw out the wick and the liquid that's in it, and put the lamp to your bosom. When you have done this, bring it to me. Do not be afraid of staining your dress, as the liquid within this lamp is not oil, and when you have thrown it out, the lamp will dry directly. If you should feel desirous of gathering any of the fruit in the garden, you may do so. There is nothing to prevent you taking as much as you please. And when the magician had given these instructions to Aladdin, he took off a ring which he had on one of his fingers and put it in the hand of his pretended nephew, telling him at the same time that it was a preservative against every evil that might otherwise happen to him. Again he bade him to be mindful of everything that he had said to him. Go, my child, added he, descend boldly. We shall now both of us become immensely rich for the rest of our lives. Aladdin gave a spring, jumped into the opening with a willing mind, and then went on down the steps. He found the 3 halls which exactly answered the description of the magician. He passed through them with the greatest precaution as possible, as he was fearful he might perish if he did not most strictly observe all the directions he had received. He went on to the garden, and without stopping ascended to the terrace. He took the lamp, which stood lighted in the niche, threw out its contents, and observing that it was, as the magician has said, quite dry, he put it to his bosom, and then came back down the terrace and stopped in the garden to look at the fruit, which he had only seen for an instant as he passed along. The trees of this garden were all laden with the most extraordinary fruit. Each bore 3 large balls, and the fruit of each tree had a separate color. Some were white, others sparkling and transparent like crystal. Some were red and of different shades, others green, blue, or violet, and some were yellowish in hue. In short, there were fruits of almost every color. The white globes were white pearls, the sparkling and transparent fruits were diamonds, the deep red were rubies, the paler, a particular sort of ruby called balas, the green emeralds, the blue turquoises, the violet amethysts, those tinged with yellow sapphires, and all the other colored fruits, varieties of precious stones. And they were all of the largest size, and the most perfect ever seen in the whole world. Aladdin, who knew neither their beauty nor their value, was not at all struck. And as his pockets, which were already full, could not hold his 2 purses, he fastened them one to another, side of each side of his sash. He also wrapped some stones in its folds, as it was of silk, and he made it very full. In this manner he carried them so that they could not fall out. He did not neglect to fill his bosom quite full, putting many of the largest and the handsomest between his shirt and his robe. Laden in this manner with the most immense treasure, but ignorant of its value, Aladdin made his way hastily through the 3 halls, that he might not make the African magician wait too long. Having traversed them with the same caution he had used before, he began to ascend the steps he had come down, and presented himself to the entrance of the cave, where the magician was impatiently waiting for him. As soon as Aladdin perceived him, he called out, "Give me your hand, uncle, to help me out of the cavern." "My dear boy," replied the magician, You will do better first to give me the lamp, as it will only impede you." "No, it is not in my way at all," said Aladdin, "and I will give it to you when I'm out of the cave." The magician still persisted in demanding the lamp before he had helped Aladdin out of the cave. But the latter had in fact so covered it with the fruit of trees that he could not readily get at it, and absolutely refused to give it up until he had gotten out of the cave. The African magician was then in such despair at the obstinate refusal of the boy that at length he fell into the most violent rage. He threw a little perfume on the fire, and when it had He threw a little more perfume on the fire, which he had been sure to keep up, and he had hardly pronounced 2 magic words when the stone, which shut the entrance of the cavern, moved of its own accord back into its original place, and the earth covered it exactly in the same way as when the magician and Aladdin had first arrived there. There is no doubt that this African magician was not the brother of Mustafa the tailor, as he had pretended to be, and consequently not the uncle of Aladdin. Well, let's stop here, and we'll continue this in part 7. It has a meaning once we hear the entire story. Love you, Habibi Angel Tribe.